This is my 2003 Chevy Suburban, and the AC has quit working. So as I said, AC's quit working. Let me show you what I found. And the compressor was not coming on. So I came over here and we have this AC compressor fuse, and what that does is it's for the clutch on the AC compressor. And there it is down there, and that fuse was popped. So I replaced it and it popped again, and the compressor comes on, and then it pops the fuse. So what I've done is I got down under there and I unplugged the plug going to the coil, the AC clutch coil, the magnetic coil that energizes to draw in the clutch. So I unplugged that and put a new fuse in it, and I've been driving it a couple days and that fuse is still good. So what that tells me is the rest of the circuit should be fine. The issue seems to be with either the AC clutch itself or the wiring between the AC clutch and the plug, between the coil and the plug. And hopefully, it's pretty windy here, so hopefully the wind is not killing audio too bad. But what we're gonna do, I went ahead and ordered a new clutch. It's supposed to be in today. I'm gonna get up underneath because it's easier to get to it and inspect the wiring, and just make sure it's not, you know, worn into somewhere. But I think we have a clutch that is failing and drawing too many amps, or is shorting internally. So if that's the case, we're going to need to replace it. Well, for the next couple clips here, my GoPro did not record the audio for some reason, so we're going to do some voiceover here. What I'm doing here is looking, you can see where I've unplugged that wire, it's dangling down, and just checking it out, and I do off camera, you know, kind of use both hands and really inspect that wire. I don't see any rub through spots, so I don't think we've got a wiring issue. More voiceover here. So we're going to need to replace the AC clutch, and I'll set up some time lapse to show you. But to actually get the clutch off itself, there is the clutch face. There's a bolt in the center of it, and you can remove that bolt. And if the clutch won't slide off easily, you can put the next size larger bolt and thread it in to the clutch face itself, and it'll draw it out. You can see the bolt right there in the center that you'll have to remove. And then you can pull it off if it's easy enough, or like I said, thread a bolt in to draw it out, acting as a puller. After removing that front plate, I like to go ahead and pull the AC belt off, and then under the front plate there will be a snap ring that holds the AC pulley on that we will have to remove. And the clutch pulley will be kind of a press fit. You normally kind of drive them out gently, and then under that there's another snap ring that holds the clutch coil, and I'll show you all that as we go through this. Just kind of wanted to explain it before we get started. Man, is this fighting me. And I don't have a puller here. I should have grabbed a puller from the shop. I don't know if I could have fit it in there though. My puller is kind of big. But what's happening is I can push it one way, but if I had help, I could easily probably get this thing off. We need to pry on both sides of it, because what's happened is I get it crooked and then I have to go to the other side. You know, it's trying to do this, and once it goes crooked, it wedges itself. So I've tried to get a third hand here. I'm using this pry bar to get on the pulley and just tapping it. I'm not hitting hard, tapping it to drive it, but like I said, it tries to crook over. And so I've got this one on the other side, and I've got it rigged, just barely putting any, just, it's not, you don't have to pull hard, just a little bit of tension to keep it from crooking over, you know, to make it want to drive out instead of just going sideways. So that's what I got going on here. Just doing what I can, I guess, with what I got. Yeah. So I may redo this and hook it up a little better, because this is, I think I can do better than this, but it's working. It's just taking a while. Figured I would give y'all an update. I've been at this for a while now. Amazon just came, so I think my clutch is here, but yeah, I probably should have just ordered me a small puller. As I'm taking a break here real quick, I will show you this portion. And this bolt was actually just a hair loose, but what I was talking about being threaded is this inside of this clutch face is threaded. So I don't know what size metric it is, but you can put one in and tighten it up and it'll draw it off. This one was loose enough that I could just pull it off by hand, so I didn't need a nut on there to do it. So all right, I'll set y'all back up and we will continue with our removal. All right, got it off. So yeah, 2 pry bars, worked it off. Puller, I would recommend a puller. Get you a small 3-jaw puller and pull this thing off, because this took a long time, but we did get it. So you can see we've got our shims right there. We'll have to take a look, see what our new clutch comes with, but we do have our old ones if we need to reuse them. Let me show you, there's one snap ring we have to undo, and I think I forgot to tell y'all there is a snap ring here. So we took this snap ring out. You probably saw it on the time lapse, but I didn't explain it. There's a snap ring here, that's what holds this on, and then this is just a press fit on there. But there's one snap ring that holds the magnetic coil on. So let me turn the light on and I'll show you that. All right, so see right there, we've got to pull that snap ring out. Look at that. I would say that's that coil melting. I guess that's where the bad spot is, and it's gotten hot. Further confirming we have a bad coil on this clutch. But see that snap ring? That's what's next. And once that's undone, the coil will just pull off. Well, here's our setup. We've got our little inspection camera set up over there with a light, because inspection camera light wasn't enough, and I'm looking through my phone so I can see where to put the snap rings. And I'm the one who put the snap ring on. I did that, replaced this clutch 6 years ago, and I put it in a not so good spot that just was awful to get to. That idler arm mount is right in the way. So when we do it, put it back in, we're going to put that snap ring straight up, and then it should be much easier. It was in a bind. I've tried several. These are the only ones I have here. These are really good, but I need an angle, and I have an angle for those, but they're too short. I need long with an angle. But I finally got it, and I was trying to get my screwdriver in there with the pry bar and get on the snap ring and try to turn it, you know, get it to spin, and it just wouldn't do it. So I struggled with this for quite a while, and I don't think the time lapse is very good, so I'll probably just include this video of me doing it here, because that's going to be the better view. I just don't think, especially when I added the light, yeah, didn't even notice that. I just set the light down in here, didn't even realize we're blocking our camera. So time-lapse video is not going to be good to the point where I got it out. Now, I struggled with this thing quite a while before I added this extra little light. So there's some struggle video there, but no need for y'all to watch me struggling when you can't even view very well. Don't know. We're going to leave that there because we may need it when we go back together with it. So let's look at our new clutch and clean off my workbench. But chargers and batteries and adapters and fan and it definitely had some kind of a short in here. It was getting hot, and the replacement is an A premium. It's about all I could get quickly. I paid like $190 for this Murray 6 years ago, and I was on vacation in Davis Mountains, super hot there, and it's what I could get to get AC working again for my family. I don't see manufactured. Curious, that's probably China, can't tell. Yeah, it's what I could get, and I don't see. I mean, we know it's bad. Let's say we cut this off, make sure there's no bad wire, but yeah, that's bad. Anyway, my son's Accord, we put a premium clutch on it. Clutch went out on it, and Honda does not sell just the clutch. You gotta buy the compressor, and it's an expensive compressor. So I was able to find this A premium. I've used some of their stuff before, and it seemed good quality. And so we put an A premium clutch on it, I don't know, about 6 months ago, and no issues so far. So we'll throw an A premium on this one. I think it was about 60 bucks. So you might ask yourself, why don't just replace the compressor? Well, that compressor works. It's the OEM compressor. It's 23 years old. It's not noisy. The AC system on this thing does not leak, and it's ice cold. And that compressor, I don't know how long it'll last, but I know there's issues with some aftermarket ones, so, and rebuilt ones, so I'm inclined to replace the clutch, and we keep our good compressor that may outlive a replacement, if that makes sense. So like I said, this thing looks good quality. I mean, slip that up on there, and I think I'm gonna put a piece of tape right here to keep this from sliding up. We want this over here because it's got to make a tight bend, so I'm gonna wrap some tape right in here, and we will get this thing on there. So there is a little nub, a little indentation on the should be about at the 3 o'clock position that sits in. Let's see, I think that's about where the opposite of, let's see, yeah, you see that little spot right below my camera right there? That's where that goes. So we're gonna get this thing slid on there. I will probably do the inspection camera, and y'all can watch me through there. Only problem with that is I do end up bumping the camera and it moves around a lot, so I apologize for that, but it's about the best I can do. So I've got a water sitting there. They're super cold out of the fridge, so I like to get them before I'm ready to drink them and set them out for a minute to cool down. I just can't do super cold when I'm hot. So like cold, but not super cold. So I'm gonna take a quick little break, turn my fan back on, drink a little water, and then I'll set the camera back up and we will start putting this thing back together. And hopefully this one lasts for us. And I guess if I get 6 years out of it, I'll be happy, but I would like for it to last longer than that. I would have liked for the Murray to have lasted longer than that. And to be honest, I guess I should have kept the coil from my OEM clutch, or maybe I shouldn't have replaced it. I don't know, maybe it wouldn't have lasted 6 years, but I went ahead and replaced all of it. I don't know, maybe I should have at least kept it. Bearing looks good quality. It's a Hicks, no idea brand on that. I checked it when I pulled it out of the box, it felt smooth. I guess we should double check, but it all looks the same. It's a nice looking surface there. So we're gonna go all new. We're gonna put all the new components in. We're not gonna reuse any other stuff. And that threaded spot's a little easier to see on this one. All right, I'm rambling. Good mess here. We got our GoPro for time lapse. We've got tools all around. We've got wires hanging out. We've got lights. We've got inspection cameras. We've got hammers and rubber mallets, but we're done, except for the air intake tube. But I wanted to show y'all before I put that on. So it is on. The wiring is plugged in down in there, if you can see it. I drove the clutch on with the rubber mallet, the pulley on. It came with 4 shims, a thick one and 3 skinny ones, 3 thin ones. So what I did is I just threw all of them in it so we could get a baseline of where we needed to be, and checked it, and I was about 34 thousandths, and I took, let's see, no, it was about 30 thousandths, yeah, 34 thousandths, 35 thousandths, somewhere in there, because I took 2 thin ones out and I measured the 2 thin ones, and that was 15 thousandths. Was the 2 thin ones, and so without those 2, we're right at 20 thousandths. I think spec is anywhere from 18 to 28, and so we should be good at 20 thousandths. So just checking with a feeler gauge. It's here somewhere. Maybe I set it on the workbench. It was here, but yeah, just the feeler gauge. Got to thinking about this and decided I should probably explain the air gap adjustment on the clutch face a little more. I didn't really go into a lot of detail, and we're just going to make up some numbers here because I don't remember what the spec is. I do mention it in the video, and I don't remember what mine was at and then what I ended up at, but you should know because it's in this video. I know I put that in there. But anyway, so what I did, my clutch, if I recall correctly, the new one, came with 3 shims, and I threw all 3 shims in. And the shims go in right here. And what that does is it spaces it out from the end of the compressor, the little snout of the compressor, the splined end that this locks into. And what it does, the more shims you add, the further distance it is from the clutch pulley. And what happens is when the magnetic coil energizes, it sucks in the face. This part pulls in. I can't do it by hand, but it pulls it in and it makes contact there. And so you have to have, there's a spec, let's just say, I think it may be like 15 to, maybe it's 18 to 28, I don't know, something like that. 18 to 28 thousandths. Like I said, I put it in the video. But if it's greater than that, that magnetic coil can't suck the clutch in. If it's too close, it can end up, you know, engaging or getting into it, you know, when it's not energized, you know. So you do have to get it adjusted just right. So what I did, there was 3 shims that came with it, and I put all 3 in and went ahead and tightened this bolt down so that I can make sure this was snugged all the way up and it was against, and this is this is a shim. You just put it in there. And so I put all 3 in, and then what I did is I came over here with a feeler gauge and I checked and got it to where the feeler gauge, you know, stacked feeler gauges together until, you know, it was a snug fit. And let's say I had 35 thousandths and spec is 20,000, or spec is 28, 15, what do we say, 18 to 28. And let's say we had 35 thousandths. And so what that tells me is we've got too many spacers. So take it back apart, and then I take my spacers out and I start measuring them. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, we're at 35 thousandths. We need to be 18 to 28. And so I start measuring these in the caliper. And let's just say this one is 20 thousandths. So, and we said 35 thousandths. Well, so we would technically have to remove one smaller than this. If we remove this one, you know, that would put us at 15 thousandths, which we were saying for the purpose of this little demonstration, 18 thousandths was the lower limit. And 28. So if we pulled 20 thousandths out and we were at 35, that puts us at 15 thousandths. Does that make sense? And that's too tight. Again, purposes of this demonstration. So I think if I recall correctly, I pulled 1 or 2 shims out. You know, I'm pretty sure I pulled 2 out, but maybe I pulled 1. And I just measured. I knew I needed to be in that range. And once you know what you're at with all the shims in, you can start measuring the shims and figure out what you need to take out to get that spec out. You know, if you take 10 thousandths out, when you put it back together, if we pulled 10 thousandths out, we were at 35 thousandths. We pulled a 10 thousandth shim out. When we put it together, it should be at 25 thousandths or right around there, right? So that's what I did, is I measured it with all the shims in, then figured out by measuring the shims which ones I could leave out to get us in spec. Does that make sense? I just wanted to throw this in there to explain this a little more, because I didn't really touch on it a lot. And then I put blue Loctite on the clutch bolt, and for torquing it down, what I did, which is also a good test to make sure your clutch works, is if you pull the relay for the AC compressor, number 87 right here, pin 87, is the energizing positive wire to the coil. So if you just tap in, I just shoved this wire down in 87 and hooked it up. I've got it now. I've got it shoved under that cap. So we put it in 87. You hear that? That is our clutch engaging. But what I did is I shoved that in there, let it engage the clutch, and then you've got, once the belt's on, you know, you've got the engine helping you hold that thing from turning. Now the belt was slipping a little bit, so I had to hold the clutch a little bit to give it be able to give it a little extra torque, but should be good. So I'm gonna put the air intake tube on, and then we'll make sure this thing works good. Even though we checked air gap, it is probably a good idea just to spin it by hand and make sure you don't hear any scraping. You know, I guess technically if the pulley somehow was off centered or something, it could be, you know, you could have a gap in one spot and not in another, but unlikely, I would think, but seems good. So not a fun job, but doable. If I had to do it again, I would have maybe some different snap ring pliers, and I think going back it'll be easier with having the snap ring at the top. It'll be much easier to get to. So all right, let me get all this back together, pick up my tools, and we'll check and make sure the AC works. Let's, before we forget and get this thing wrapped in the belt, let's undo it. third hand. All right, I'll bring y'all back and we'll test it out. Clutch is turning. See that? You hear the compressor? I don't hear it. It's a good compressor. Or maybe slightly, but it definitely is not noisy. That's why I didn't want to replace it. AC again. That's nice. All right. I guess I'm a wimp, but it is Texas and it's summer. It is hot. Every day now till fall will be 90 plus degrees. That's gonna do it. I will put a link in the description to the clutch. I've got no affiliation with A Premium. I am an Amazon affiliate, but I've got no affiliation with A Premium. Like I said, I use one of their AC clutches on my son's Accord because it's kind of, not many companies seem to sell a clutch for that one. They just sell the compressor. So, and it seemed to work well, seemed to be good quality, so figured I would go with one on here. And our almost $200 Murray lasted 6 years, and I guess, I don't know how y'all feel about that. I would have preferred it last longer, but maybe someone might be like, 6 years is a pretty good run, but I don't know. The original one lasted until it wore out the surface of the disc, you know. So the original one made it, I guess, 17 years. So, and the Murray lasted 6. The original lasted 17 years and the Murray lasted 6. You can see our surface still looks good, but yeah, coil not good. So I need to put all my junk. I just cleared it off the Suburban. But yeah, definitely was shorted and getting hot right there. Well, that's gonna do it. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more.